What's going on, everybody? I got a very special guest with me, the Stewcast, representing, got the Miami Hurricane shirt. Man, Stu does a hell of a job on his podcast, has a great variety of sports topics to cover. Tonight is a very special night as well because this is our inaugural new addition to the channel. We're doing the college football pick'em week 11. Hopefully, we can get people to watch, these videos. And I think when you guys hear the Stu talk and, kind of breaking down the matchups, I think you guys would really get into his informative info. Stewcast, where can people find you on your podcast?
Man, I appreciate that, Paul. It's always good to talk to you, my man. Folks, you can find me wherever you're downloading your podcasts. I'm there, the Stewcast, iTunes, Apple, Spotify, all the good stuff, Google, Pods, whatever they do. We're on like 8 different services, so appreciate that. Yeah, pretty much.
Big Michigan State fan, but at the same time, he does show a lot of love for the Miami Hurricanes. It has nothing to do with Dan Enos. I promise you. It's got
no,
nothing
it
to do with
certainly doesn't.
Before we get started with the Stewcast, stickersbyab.com. Go check these guys out. Some of the most elite sticker designs in the game for Miami Hurricanes or Miami Heat as well. If you're a basketball fan, type in the discount code SCOOP, 15% off. And I'm telling you, it is elite sticker designs that they have. Go check them out at stickersbyab.com. Discount code SCOOP, all caps, 15% off. Stu, let's get into it, man. Miami versus Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is favored by 2.5. I know you have a very unique perspective. A lot of Miami Hurricanes fans are going to be very interested in. A lot better perspective than I have and other Hurricanes fans going into the game. What do you have regarding this matchup?
Well, I like to think of it as the fact that I'm just an outside observer. Like, I got an LSU helmet back here. I'm wearing just rando college shirts, even though my school is Michigan State, because I just love college athletics. So when I'm looking at this game, the 2.5 line, anytime you see a number between 0, which is a pick'em, to 3, a 3 is a key number. Anytime you see a number fall in there, 1.5, 2, 2.5, Vegas doesn't really know. And so when I start looking at the numbers, I'm looking against the spread. Is there something in the history of these two in a matchup that's saying, okay, well, one team does really well. I got a couple games later on that I'll show that. Both these teams 3-4 against the spread this year. So you're not going to get a huge stat either way in either favor. So I started looking at just the tape. And Miami last week, I didn't want to bet them whatsoever against NC State. I feel like NC State, that's a trap game. Like whoever scheduled that game for Miami, I mean, y'all know what to do with them. Like, just make a few phone calls. Then Dade County boys, they get wild. So NC State always pulls up an upset on a Friday night at home. It's a tough place to play. That team is good. I think if Nick Leary didn't break his leg, you're talking about a team that would have another win, possibly. I think they'd probably show up against North Carolina. I think that's a good team. Then they kind of recover a little bit. They get a little bit extra time. Vatek, Khalil Herbert, is he good? I know he hurt his hand in the last game.
Yeah, so he first quarter during a kickoff, he was injured, did not return to the game. His status is still up in the air. The way I see it, Stu, maybe it's some gamesmanship from Virginia Tech, but I don't think he's going to be 100% healthy.
Well, either way, I think Vatek, when you look at what they want to do, and they obviously want to run the ball, that's the best thing that Miami's defense does. They really do a good job stopping the run.
Right.
And to illuminate that fact, Miami is giving up 20 yards per game below what a team averages. So that means basically if a team they're playing is averaging 400 yards a game, Miami is going to stop them for like 380 on average. The lower that number is, the far better it is. Vatek, 464 yards per game, 35 yards per game above average defensively. So they're going 35 yards over what the average defense they play is giving. I think Miami can be exploited through the pass. Hendon Hooker, not a good passer. This 2.5 line is still dicey because we don't know how it's going to play out. This is a very even matchup. However, from a betting perspective, 2 options. First of all, I love the over. The over 67. I love this over. I don't think Vatek. Yeah, I don't think Vatek can stop De'Ara King.
Interesting.
I think this is easily a game where Miami scores 35 to 45 points. Vatek is going to get theirs too. And okay. I think that's what I don't know. I know like one of your friends, Lance Leggett. I love that guy on Twitter. He probably predicts the game to be like, a 38-point blowout. Maybe they let him score a field goal late or something. But this is going to be a close game. So I like the over here. This is a perfect game to do something called a teaser. And for listeners that don't know, I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence here, but essentially what it is you pick a series of 5, 6, 7 games, and you add 6 points to it. So if you pick Miami in this case, you would have 8.5. If you played the total, it would be over 61. So you move it 6 points in your direction, whatever you're betting. Lower odds, you have to add more games into it. But if you're telling me I can get the over at 61 and Miami plus 8.5, I'm going to take that all day. So 2 options to go there. I think it's a little bit too close to call, like just straight up as a bet. But I like this game for how it can play into what your card's going to be for Saturday.
Speaking of the over, my co-host Brad, thank you so much for tuning in.
Shout out, Brad.
8 out of the last 10 games, Virginia Tech has won by more than 24 points or more. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, so I completely agree regarding the over. Stu, I think you're 110% right. By the way, also, anytime, like you said, Vegas, if they give you a 2.5 point edge, that's just saying, hey, it's going to be a toss up. We really don't know what's going to happen. And just to clarify and confirm with everyone, Stu, you have the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, I would lean towards Miami. But what Brad said's interesting, though, because last year, if you guys remember, Vatek was up 28-0. And I think we can all agree last year's Miami team was a lot of missed opportunities. I think the team this year is a lot more put together, and it's more well balanced. De'Ara King obviously plays a huge part in that. That stat is also a little because Vatek, used to be a lot more potent than what they are today. I mean, let's face facts. They're kind of slipping a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of Fuentes out there. I don't think he's doing that great of a job. Virginia's making up a ton of ground on him here in the lovely Colonial State. So, I'm going to lean with Miami, take the over, and include them in a teaser.
I stated this last night on Stu's podcast, had me for an ACC basketball preview. Go check that out on his podcast. He does an outstanding work. It's going to come out next week. Never bet against your own team. So any Miami Hurricanes fans that are thinking of betting against Miami, you don't do what Pete Rose did as the manager for the Cincinnati Reds.
I may be betting against my team.
Oh. By the way, Stu betted against his team, Michigan State, when they took on Michigan.
Yeah, so that's a quite a hefty loss. That hurt the wallet quite a bit, but it's one of those things where, like I was telling you offline, it's like, okay, Miami's having a horrible season. They play Florida State, and you go in and dog them in Tallahassee. What's that worth to you?
Right.
So it was worth it. But yeah, I definitely did not see that coming.
Next matchup we're going to go over, Notre Dame is heading to Chestnut Hill to take on the Boston College Eagles after a huge win against Clemson at home in South Bend. What's the spread on that game, and how do you think Notre Dame fares going into Chestnut Hill?
Well, this is a weird game. The spread right now, 13.5, over under 49.5. Notre Dame this season, oddly enough, even though they're 7-0, they're 3-4 against the spread. Boston College 5-3, should be 6-2. I don't know if anybody watching this watched that putrid game up in northern New York, up in lovely Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. That game was disgusting. Boston College should have covered. I mean, they missed 4 field goals. It seemed like they really weren't trying to do much. Now, I saw this game open up at 12 points. Notre Dame favored by 12. It's gone up to 13.5. It hasn't crossed 14 yet. That's a little weird. There's 2 teams in Vegas that get a lot of play. Michigan gets a ton of money. They get a ton of money just because they're Michigan. And then Notre Dame as well. Those 2 teams carry a lot of money from past donors or whatever. Yeah, Brad's calling it out. It is the bandana game. This is kind of a similar setup. My co-host, Chris Van Dyne of North Coast Sports, he called this out back in 93 after Notre Dame beats Charlie Ward's Florida State. They come back and they lose to Boston College the very next week. It does set up for that. I mean, you look at every storyline. Phil Yurkovich, Brian Kelly kicked him out of the program. He pushed him out. He's got something to fight for. The problem with this game, though, is that Notre Dame is holding its opponents to 82 yards on the ground. And Bailey is a lot of what Boston College needs to do. So if you're going to bet Boston College, you're going to take the points. You're riding it all on Phil Yurkovich just bombing it. What I've seen from Boston College this year, a lot of trouble against the run. Notre Dame is going to run the ball. I think the over is telling you that Vegas is expecting Notre Dame to control time of possession.
Right.
Ian Book just has to be competent. They have played a lot of teams that are, slightly behind Boston College, and I'm thinking of, Dukes and Georgia Techs and these kinds of teams. They're behind Boston College in the grand scheme of ACC football. 13.5 is like a really juicy number for me.
Yeah.
I'm going against, what a lot of everybody on here likes BC. I'm not playing the game. If I had a lean, it would be Notre Dame and lay in the points.
No, I'm 13.5 is a huge spread, especially Notre Dame. They play a lot of close games. Boston College had Clemson on the ropes in Death Valley. This time, Notre Dame's heading to Chestnut Hill. I'm taking Boston College, no doubt about it. I think they can really play a close game, keep the lead under 13 points at least. So I'm definitely riding with Boston College in that game. And then what did you say was the over?
49.5. And
yeah, that sounds like Notre Dame football to me, like you said.
Yeah, and that Boston College Clemson game, it's a little smoke and mirrors, right? So Etienne fumbles on the 2-yard line. They run it back all the way to the Clemson 30. Phil Yurkovich was just throwing bombs. He was just throwing 50, 60-yard bombs. And I think what we've all seen in this COVID season is that the deep ball, if you can throw it, you got a above 50-50 shot, it feels like, to get that call or that catch. And they were riding on that. That second half, they were outscored 28-7. Clemson is not the Clemson that we're used to. They're beatable. Notre Dame did it. Alabama would do it. Florida would do it. I think Clemson, they might be lucky if they don't make the playoff, because it won't be pretty when they go play an Ohio State, Florida, Alabama. It's not going to be a good look for them.
Stickersbyab.com. Go check those guys out. If you're a true diehard Miami Hurricanes fan, you'll give them a shot. These guys are putting in the work. Discount code on all of your orders. Scoop, Caps, 15% off. Can't beat it. Stu, we're going to head on over to your neighborhood. A very interesting Indiana Hoosiers football team. We're not talking about basketball. I know it's around the corner, but this is a top 10 Indiana Hoosiers football team going into East Lansing to take on an up-and-coming Mel Tucker Michigan State football team. What do you got in this game?
So this, I mean, I already kind of spoiled it as to where I'm going. Before the season, on our Big Ten preview show, I said there's two teams in the Big Ten that are going to make huge improvements. Northwestern, coming off a 3-win season, they've already tied it, and Indiana. And both teams were set up for success, both having pretty much all their key pieces back from last year. Indiana they haven't been favored against Michigan State since 1993. They are breaking a ton of records as they go. These long streaks normally do matter, but I mean, Indiana is a different animal this year. Michael Penix, if you watch Penix throw, it's awful. I mean, the mechanics are, he's got happy feet. He's pointing to the right and throwing to the left and vice versa. He looks like he's breakdancing back there, and the ball just comes out, and it's a 45-yard catch. MSU, I talked to you before this season. Mel Tucker was just saddled with a really bad situation, and he's making the most of it. That Michigan win, it's kind of fluky. Michigan didn't opt out of man coverage the entire game. Awesome. They exploited it. Last week, I thought you saw what Michigan State's going to be the rest of the season, and that is they got steamrolled by Iowa. From the first drive, it was 8 yards a carry. It was easy play action passes. They run a 4-2-5. They can't get out of 4-2-5. They don't trust to have a third linebacker on the field. So if you can make a 4-2-5 work, but you better be able to defend the run. Indiana's predicated on the running. Stevie Scott is a competent running back. Michael Penix is something that kills Michigan State defenses historically, and that's a mobile quarterback. They can get out there. They can toss them balls. The defense is playing above average for what I thought they would be. Their lane 7, that number opened at 9.5. Coming down to 7 is a little weird, but Vegas doesn't always know. I love Indiana here, and this is even a game I would reverse line. And by that, I mean if Indiana's giving 7 and you're getting you got to pay a vig on this. So it'd be money line would be minus 110. So you'd have to bet $110 to win 100. That's how that kind of works. I really do like Indiana all the way up to 13.5. I think they actually do blow out Michigan State.
Wow. All right, 13.5. That's a big spread. Hey, if that's who you're taking, guys, listen up. Stu, Michigan State fanatic, going against his own team. Gotta love it, man.
We're not gonna even be watchable for about 2 to 3 years. That's how bad Mark did the program.
Let's move over further into the Big Ten. Wisconsin going into Ann Arbor to face Michigan. What's this outlook like? Is Graham Mertz, is that his last name? Is he still on the sidelines due to COVID? Is he expected to start? I know he's going to be out for a little while.
So I talked to my friend Asher Lowe. He runs Locked On Badgers. He does. If you're looking for some in-depth, last-minute breaking news on that, check that podcast out or his Twitter. He was saying that. So what happened was Graham Mertz was cleared to practice with the team, like conditioning-wise, on Saturday. Wisconsin's known this was going to be the game they were going to play for about 2 weeks. That I fully expect him to play. I think the big thing is on the Michigan side of the ball, though. Jalen Mayfield, their only returning offensive tackle, he's out. He's done. He got injured. I believe he got injured in the Michigan State game. And Aiden Hutchinson, one of the two best defensive players, maybe their best defensive lineman. It depends on how you view Kwity Paye. He's out, and that's a big loss. This Michigan team is heading down a really bad path, and the losses. There's a lot of strife in the program. SI.com had a really crazy article with like 12 anonymous sources, but in the program, basically saying that everybody's going each and every way. Joe Milton cannot throw the ball past 10 yards. He can't. He's like from Bull Durham. He's like Nuke LaLoosh. If he throws it past 10 yards, he doesn't know where it's going. When you watch him throw, he's really limiting. He's really limiting. They can't get the run game going. They're really limited passing wise. They really dearly miss Nico Collins, Tariq Black. They don't have any size. They run crossing patterns, slants. Wisconsin opened this game as 1.5 favorites. I had heard that they were actually 3-point dogs.
Okay.
But I haven't been able to confirm that because I've never seen that line from anybody in my Vegas friends or anything. So they opened at 1.5. They're now up to 4.5. 3 is a key number. 4.5 with a chance to go even further come Saturday night. A lot of late money comes in Saturday night that extends that by a point, possibly 2. Wisconsin is going to win this game. This is a game they need to win. They want to win. They've been practicing to win. I think you're catching a Michigan team that is reeling. And here's the stat. In Jim Harbaugh's entire tenure, which I think is 5 or 6 years now, I forget. All the bad years run together. You hate to see it. As an underdog, guess his record.
As an underdog, 6-0.
He is 0-14 as an underdog.
Oh my God, I was so off. I thought I was playing reverse psychology.
It's an insane number, right?
Yeah, no, that's her. I mean, I don't know why he's still their head coach, to be honest.
Wow. That's a much longer podcast, and I don't want to upset any Michigan fans here. But
Probably won't find any.
Well, good. We're amongst friends then. He's 0-14 against the spread as an underdog. I love Wisconsin here. I think this Graham Mertz kid brings you're seeing a whole new Wisconsin. They're letting him throw a lot more because they can't run. This Wisconsin O-line is, from what I saw against Illinois, they cannot run the ball. So they're going to be throwing, and Michael Penix was just tearing up Michigan. So I fully expect Wisconsin to cover.
All right. I know, Stu, you want to go over some key matchups. Northwestern at Purdue. They're crashing into the top 25. Pat Fitzgerald seems to have a kind of decent program. I mean, it is Northwestern. It's basically the Ivy League of, Chicago. But they're not really going to be good at football ever. So he's making lemonade out of lemons. But what are your kind of thoughts on this matchup going into this game?
See, I didn't really have a huge thought other than, on paper, I would lean Northwestern. But my friend Chris Van Dyne, again, North Coast Sports, they do a ton of college football deep dives. this is in contention. This game is in contention for a big play for him. He was talking about it on our show the other night. Northwestern is holding teams to about 136 yards less than what they average. So earlier we had talked about how Miami holds teams to about 20 yards less than what they normally average. Northwestern's at about 136. That's an astounding number. And it's not against bad teams. Nebraska does have an offense. Nebraska is a live underdog against Penn State this weekend. Iowa can put up points. Maryland, we've seen what Maryland can do with Talia Tungavailoa. And they held him to 3 points. Northwestern is going to suffocate Purdue. And I don't know if Rondell Moore's coming back, but here's the big thing. The line open, Purdue favored by a point. It crosses the 0, the pick'em line, and it's moved all the way up to 3 at some places, at some books. That's a huge move. For comparison, last week, the game that did that was BYU Boise State. BYU won by 40. I'm not calling for that, but I do think Northwestern covers this easily.
Gotta love it, man. Northwestern football, Indiana football in the top 25. I think the world is ending. I'll be honest.
They're really good. So, like, they returned – their defense last year was actually really good. They were hampered by the fact some of the watchers, listeners might remember this name, Hunter Johnson. He used to be a backup quarterback at Clemson. He transferred to Northwestern, and he was god-awful. I was trying to think of a nice way to put it. God-awful seems like the best, nicest way. Their quarterbacks combined for 6 touchdowns last year and 15 interceptions. They couldn't throw the ball. The box was stacked against them in every play. Quick drives, quick punts, defense out there all the time. They couldn't move the ball at all. It was bad news Bears. This year, Peyton Ramsey, the former Indiana quarterback, has really got this offense moving where you have to respect the pass, and it's opened up the run game. And now you're seeing the Northwestern team do what they want to do, what Pat Fitzgerald really has built this team on. The good Northwestern teams under Pat Fitzgerald, they control defensively, quick stops, quick drives, get the ball 3 yards in or cloud of dust, 4 yards in a cloud of dust, the old Big Ten saying, and then they make a pass when they need to, and he's just a glorified Trent Dilfer, just game managing.
Stu, want to talk about one game I have my eye on. I really think this is going to be an interesting matchup. Wake Forest going into Chapel Hill to take on North Carolina. In-state rivalry matchup. What are your thoughts on that? UNC is favored by 13.5. I'll be honest with you. I think it's going to be a lot closer.
Yeah, run away from that game. Both teams run really effectively. Wake Forest has done a really good job as an underdog this season. They've really, I was surprised at how good they were, because losing Sage Sauercut, losing Jamie Newman, that team was really good last year when those guys were, really jiving together and on the field. Sage gets hurt. He leaves the program. Jamie transfers. And Sam, who's the quarterback there? It's not Sam Howell.
Sam Hartman for Wake Forest? Yeah,
Hartman. Yeah, yep. I always get him confused with Howell. Maybe it's a QB1 thing. He's stepped in and he's competent. Wake Forest is a very competent team. Now, they both thrive on the running game. I mean, North Carolina, between Williams and Carter, you got 2 of the top 10 backs in the country there. They, even against that Florida State game, if you guys watched that, it was just all running. Sam Howell's not tossing 36 touchdowns this year because he doesn't have to. But I think you're also seeing that maybe there was a little sophomore slump here from Sam Howell. And so with the two teams running and neither team can really stop the run, I don't know where this game's going to go. I totally agree with you that it could be a really close game, but I would have said that I thought the Duke-North Carolina game was going to be a little bit closer, and that was over by the end of the first quarter.
Stu, one more matchup you got back of your pocket before we let you go.
All right, I'm going to give this one out. My partner, the Bobcat, he thoroughly disagreed with me. He's got some hot takes, but I really have found that I love Mountain West football this year. I think there's a lot of value there. I don't know. I played Boise State tonight, and they scored 3 special teams touchdowns, and it's 42-7 last time I checked. Game should be over. The Mountain West has had a lot. There's a lot of value in there. San Jose State, the second best Spartans in the country. I thought this team was going to be abysmal. I thought it was very lackluster in talent. Last year wasn't a good year. And they have come out. They beat Air Force 17-6 to start the year. And that was kind of Air Force, I don't know if anybody knows, Air Force lost their entire senior class. They all opted out. But when you're at a service academy, when you opt out, it's, go jump in a plane and fly somewhere overseas. That's what they ended up doing. So Air Force is kind of a shell of what it should be this season. And so you kind of dismiss San Jose State off of that. But the games they've played subsequently, especially last week against San Diego State, who had a really good defense coming into the game, San Jose State lost their quarterback, Nick Starkel, SEC transfer. Redshirt freshman Nick Nash comes in very competent, in that San Jose State defense was suffocating. And I didn't see it coming. This week, they get UNLV. San Jose State is holding opponents 113 yards per game less than what they average. This UNLV team is not good. It's not a good team. San Jose State laying the 16. I like the Spartans. I know it's a big number. I like San Jose State. In the Mountain West so far this year, you've seen a lot of big numbers, a lot of blowouts early. There's a lot of haves and have-nots. And I don't think Vegas is caught up to it, and I dig that. So that would be my back-of-the-pocket play. I got a lot more plays on the Stewcast this week, and my friend Chris over at North Coast Sports, they have their 5-star game of the year. They only give 2 of these out a year. Yeah, I know. You got to throw some out there. But he has a game that we may have covered, we may not have covered, that will be on there. And I'm sure if you call and you mention this show, he can hook you up with a deal for it. Saturday morning, he'll have that.
The Stewcast podcast, man, hell of a job. I don't meet that many people that are that informative about every single team, every single sport. I mean, Stu does a tremendous job. I'm sure to all of our, subscribers listening, I mean, how informative and someone can be breaking down each and every matchup. Hell of a job, Stu. Just grateful we were able to cross paths, and, I can come on your podcast and you can come on my show. Definitely was a pleasure to have you on, man. And where can people find you?
Yes, iTunes, Spotify, the Stewcast, and also on Twitter at Stewcast Sports. And Paul, it's always great to talk to you, man. I love this, back and forth. Hopefully we can make it a thing. Hopefully we make folks money. And I know these things because I'm a degenerate gambler. And, when basketball season starts up, it's going to be really disgusting.
Love it, Stu. The inaugural episode with the Stewcast. Love it, man. Go put your picks in. Go make us some money. And I promise you, the Stu never fails, man. He does a hell of a job. Go check him out, the Stewcast podcast. Stu, thank you again, man, and have a great rest of your night.
See you, Paul.
All right, Stu. Peace. All right, guys. That was our first episode of College Football Pick'ems Week 8. Now, I'm bringing on my co-host, Brad. We're going to be talking some recruiting. We're going to be breaking down the Virginia Tech game. It's a late night show. You got to love the passion, guys. Brad, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? I'm just trying to find some good service here in Gainesville. It's crappy, just like
man.
Dan Mullen's khaki pants, you know?
Brad, speaking of crowded, man, our class at the cornerback position, it's pretty empty. What's going on, man? The Tim Burns situation really took a lot of spotlight, I feel like, from the game this week. Everyone's back focusing about recruiting. It seems like everything, it's just panic buttons right now. What's going on with recruiting at the cornerback position?
So, yeah, man, as we all know, Tim Burns was out of the class, obviously, in the past few days. That obviously we have guys like Markevius Brown out of IMG that we've been on from quite a while now. We also have Covington. From everything I've told, we've got another couple offers that we just went out. Khalil Anderson is probably one that I just mentioned in the comment section earlier today. He is probably the best corner available out of everyone we have that we're looking at. So I'd probably put him at the top of the list as far as a cornerback position. And then you also have, obviously we wouldn't probably get him now, but you look into this transfer portal, I don't think the staff is going to go too hard on corners right now, just because they're going to try and play the waiting game for the transfer portal in case we aren't allowed to get more roster spots available. But this year, after the season ends, the transfer portal is going to be absolutely crazy. It's probably going to be, I honestly think if the transfer portal made their own football team, they would probably be a top 10 team. It's that much talent. You look at a kid from Vanderbilt, the cornerback. I forgot what his first name is, but his last name
DC
Williams. DC Williams. Yeah, I know this is the second time we passed up on 2 times already. His dad is the South Florida Express coach, Ricky Williams, as well. So we do have ties with him. I wouldn't be surprised if we go after him, but we'll see, man. I kind of hinted about it earlier. I don't think this team necessarily needs to get a cornerback in this class. I think we could wait for the transfer portal. I think we need to use these last 3 spots on game changers. Kids that are going to change the program within the first or second year. And I don't think there's a cornerback available right now that can do that. But I can see guys like Jake Garcia, Terrence Lewis, Mason Smith, Marcus Tate. The list goes on as far as difference makers that are still available. And another kid to look at, I would actually put him at the top of the list right now, is Austin Barber, the offensive lineman. He is 6'7". He's a local. I do know he does want to stay in close to home. Family is very important to him. He wants to make sure everyone in his family can visit his football games. He was currently committed to Minnesota. He obviously backed off of that just because of the trip, of how long it would take for his family to watch him. And most of his offers right now are still from other schools that are very cold or still very far, which are 2 of the top things he doesn't like.
Brad, why do you think, we're such a tight position, with cornerback recruiting? We take a kid like Steven Ortiz, he has family down in Cooper City. We've had Cliff on our show. He's developed a nice relationship with Jaden Hood. What kind of profile are we going at in recruiting at the cornerback position? Because, I look at a guy like Mick Burrows out of St. Thomas Aquinas. He's going to Michigan. You just stated another corner that is committed to Minnesota. These are, recruits that are going to Big Ten schools, where I feel like Miami could really pitch, their secondary as a whole. You have Ed Reed, the greatest safety of all time, around the program. You have guys like Kelly Jennings, Antro Roll, that played corner at Miami. And those are just a couple names I'm just throwing off the top of my head. Why is it so hard to get recruits to come to Miami to commit at the cornerback position?
There's a lot of reasons, Paul. For one, when you look at any corner that has come to our program within the past, I would say 8-9 years, there nobody has been a game changer, or you can literally look at and be like, "Oh man, I want to be like him." You see him in the NFL, and not many of them either get drafted or go undrafted or go 6th or 7th round. I think our last good corner was Artie Burns, and he wasn't even a legit corner for Miami his whole time at Miami, which kind of tells you something, right? And then the other reason is probably because our cornerback coach isn't the main recruiter. So it's a little tough for us to go after cornerbacks and then try to build a relationship with the guy that's going to be coaching him, developing them, when he's not even the guy that's going to be recruiting you, sitting in the front living room with your family, right? He's not even the main guy. He might be there, but he's not the main guy. And then, I mean, last but not least, I think at this point, Miami is a lot more comfortable going after athletes as far as guys who can play striker, linebacker, safety, to where the cornerback position isn't really the highest on their list. And to be quite honest with you, I think somebody on Twitter made an excellent point yesterday. I believe it was Miami aficionado. If he ever watches the show, got to give him credit where it's due. But he made up an excellent point. Most offenses in this day and era, they're not necessarily making the receivers run very hard routes. It's very, very bland. The offenses are very basic now, to where you're not really asking a lot from cornerbacks. They're not having to think as much. So if you're able to disguise and hide some of the weaknesses from your corners by putting better safeties, better linebackers, better strikers, or star players, depending on who your favorite football team is, if those guys are athletic and quick and have the football IQ, they're able to hide the weaknesses of a corner that's not necessarily good. For example, look at what Bubba Bolden has done for a lot of the football games this year, where he's kind of been the blanket for our corners, to where our corners haven't necessarily played bad this year, but they haven't played great. They played just good enough to where you can't really complain about them, but you can't really praise them too much either. Go back a couple other years with Jaquan Johnson. Jaquan Johnson did the same thing. Him and Sheldrick Redwine were sure blankets for that secondary, to where our corners weren't really the best. We had one or two guys that stepped up here and there, but as a whole, our corners have never been great.
That's a great point. And, to answer your question, yeah, Dorian, he is Miami aficionado. He's been on my Miami Hurricanes After Dark several times, and he does listen to this YouTube channel. And, yeah, no, he made a great point. And, Brad, speaking of former players, you have a great point. Look at LSU. They provide a lot of great defensive backs. A lot of, people that play, a lot of players that play in the secondary.
Yep.
Want to go to LSU, for an example. That's a dream offer. They want to go to Alabama. They want to play at Georgia. So it's going to be very interesting what happens moving forward. One thing about Manny Diaz, what I mentioned in my previous video, he always has a plan. I'm not worried. I know we're going to hit the transfer portal. We're going to pick up some grad transfers at the cornerback spot, and we're going to try to flip some recruits. And, a team to look out for, Michigan. It really is an interesting story what's going on there. Jim Harbaugh is on the hot seat. He does have a couple recruits in South Florida at St. Thomas Aquinas who they may want to flip. They may want to play closer to home that Miami is still in contact with. So let's just stand by in recruiting. We'll see what happens moving forward, but definitely I'm not worried about the 0 cornerback commits. We'll figure it out moving forward. Manny Diaz, this coaching staff does have a plan, so we'll be fine.
And I mean, and there's about 14 to 16 players on our team next year that I can name that I honestly think it doesn't matter what cornerback, even if we got 2 cornerbacks this class, I don't think neither one of those cornerbacks would get playing time over the 16 players I would name. And this is just not even as a cornerback play, but just you got to also remember even though we only have 5 or 6 guys at corner, only 2 or 3 are playing at a time. Most of the time it's 2 because we're going to be playing that striker or that nickel guy most of the time. And I mean, you look at a guy like Corey Couch who stepped up tremendously. The guy, I mean, you got to figure Al Blades, DJ Ivy, and Couch are all coming back next year. So you already got your 3. I mean, you still got Marcus Clark, Isaiah Dunston, and then I mean that's just 5 guys at corner. That's not even including all the strikers, all the safeties that all are athletic enough to play multiple positions. You still got Avante Williams, you still got James Williams, you still got Cam Kitchens, you got Brian Balin, Jalen Harrell. I mean, Bubba Bolden's most likely gone. Who knows what Mr. Target Amari Carter's going to do? But I mean, you've got plenty of guys that can easily step up. Even Gilbert Frierson as well, Keontre Smith. I mean, we have the talent, and that's the thing that kind of irks me. Our defense can be a lot better than what it is. You look at last year's defense. Last year's defense was a little bit better than this year's, and our talent was nowhere near as what we have on the team currently. What's the difference? It's probably the scheme. I think Manny Diaz needs to take over the defense. I think that's the only way we can get to where we need to be. If not, I think we've honestly reached our ceiling. You see the adjustments that we make late in games. I just wish we can make those adjustments before it gets too late.
Great comment left. We did offer a cornerback who is committed to Pittsburgh. Brad, is that the next move
Khalil
for the
Anderson.
Miami Hurricanes? That's the next move?
Correct. Yeah, Khalil Anderson. I mentioned, I believe he's 6'1" or 5'11". He's one of the two. Khalil Anderson is a really good football player. I would honestly say next move would probably be either Khalil Anderson or Austin Barber would be the top
Love
2
it.
guys. You got an offensive lineman, a corner. Obviously, Terrence Lewis is still in the mix. We mentioned Jaden Hood. Jake Garcia, like Manny Diaz and Rhett Lashley talked about earlier this week, they're still wanting to sign a quarterback, most likely a high school kid in this class. If not, they're more than welcome to looking in the portal. And like I said, I think this staff is very patient. They're not willing to pull the trigger right away. There's still plenty of time. I think the more this team continues to win football games, the more confident they can feel revisiting some of these bigger targets, like a Marcus Tate, for example. That's a guy that's kind of died down for a little bit, but who knows? If we run the table and only end up with 1 loss, that's a big name, Marcus Tate, that could play into the picture as well.
Brad, I know a lot of people were worried that being Tim Burns Jr. getting dropped from this class, it's going to disrupt that Miami Northwestern recruiting class we have coming in. Romello Brinson, Khalil Brantley. We already dropped Ja'Cory Hammond as well. Cameron Kitchens is coming in. I mean, we can't lose those guys. They're going to be very impactful players at the next level. Are you worried at all about their commitments going into Miami, or do you believe they're pretty solid and they're a hard commit going to Miami?
No, I believe they're pretty solid. I talked to a few of those kids, and they know this is strictly business. That as much, I mean, that's their brother. Obviously, they feel bad, but at the end of the day, they know they want to be Hurricanes. They kind of want to turn the program around. You know, make the crib great. If you want to make the crib great stickers, go to Stickers by AB. By the way, he's got the Make the Crib Great. But yeah, man, I think they all stay. And you know, if you look a little bit deeper into the Tim Burns situation, he was the first commit out of the whole Miami Northwestern class that we got this year to commit. I believe he committed like a year and a half ago. And if you really look at it, in that class, I think we only had 3 or 4 guys that have signed, so we had plenty of room to kind of just add anyone we wanted to. And I think at the time, the staff kind of knew based off the measurements of Tim Burns that they were kind of taking a leap on him, truly from the beginning. But he has that dog mentality. He's from the crib. Obviously, he wants to be a Hurricane. So they figured, hey, you know what? Let's add him. And I think they also kind of knew in the back of their head that he could be the start of the engine to kind of igniting the rest of these Miami Northwestern kids to kind of come on board and sign with us, which eventually happened, right? So there's a couple scenarios how you want to look at this. I think at the end of the day, the staff didn't do right. I think they could have done a little bit better as far as handling the situation. But again, it was a little premature. Who knows if we signed Tim Burns too early? Who knows if we signed him too late? Who knows if we signed him just to get the rest of these kids? Nobody knows the real story. But at the end of the day, I think we all know that the staff, if we're gonna drop a 3-star, I expect a 4-star, right?
Right.
And I think we can't fully evaluate the whole thing that's going on until we see the outcome. And I think as long as the staff and as long as Rump gets a better corner or a better player, I think it's a win. Regardless how we handle the situation, it's a business at the end of the day. And I think at the end of the day, us Cane fans, we want the best players to make a difference on the program. And that's not no knock to Tim Burns. He's one of my favorite commits that we had. I think eventually he would have made a difference, but he's one of those kids that I would kind of compare him to Corey Couch, but maybe a little bit behind. Someone that would probably take about 2 years to kind of get in the program and see what's used to. And I think and I think right now at this point, I think the program wants to try and find guys that can make a difference right away.
Gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. We are getting quality over quantity. Brad, going in, Virginia Tech is favorite by 2.5 points this Saturday. I know in our group chat, Marsh stated, he was pretty nervous about this game. A lot of fans are too. Noon kickoff in Blacksburg. Man, how are you feeling about this game? Miami's coming in top 10 in the nation. Last time we were in the top 10, we get blown out by Clemson on national TV. This is also going to be on national TV on ESPN. What are your thoughts about this game?
This is actually the most comfortable I've been all season as far as a football game. I don't know why, but I feel confident. I think after the team proving to me that they could win off a bye, and kind of just getting that ghost that was always in our head, as King fans out of the way, I think we're finally starting to see this team click. And like we talked about in the group chat earlier, I made up a couple points. For one, 8 of the last 10 games in Blacksburg have been blowouts, as far as 24 points or more that the team has won. I expect the same thing for this game. I think Virginia Tech's defense is probably the worst defense we played all year, and that includes Florida State. I think Virginia Tech's defense is just as bad. I think as long as we contain Hooker, we're going to be just fine. And even if Herbert, which is obviously their best player, does end up playing, I don't think he's going to be 100%. You're talking about a running back who's very explosive and has already injured his hamstring twice this season. That's very hard to come back by, especially just after a week of not hurting it. But yeah, I think it's going to be like a 42-17, 42-21 type of game. And I expect most of our team to be playing. I expect everyone to be rocking on all cylinders. And we have yet to have a football game this year where all 3 components have done well, right? We're still winning football games. It's always been either the offense in the special teams or the defense in the special teams. And we're starting to see where everyone's starting to get comfortable. And it goes back to that word that everyone on the football team seems to be talking about this week, and that's confidence, right? Confidence is key. As long as you're confident, you start to play a little bit more better. You don't think about things as much. I mean, a perfect example is a guy like Mark Pope. He's not thinking anymore. He's doing his thing, and he is slowly progressing to where he's starting to get into the groove. Mike Harley is starting to become that number 1 wide receiver. I think as long as the running game picks up, this team's going to be just fine. I'm not worried at all about this game.
Brad, someone put in the comments section, and I also heard this in Twitter, Brevin Jordan's status. Is he playing against Virginia Tech, or is he's going to play?
I don't want to leak or say anything, but if I'm a
Fair.
Kane fan, just be positive. I don't think a lot of people on Twitter I think are kind of jumping the gun. Obviously Manny and the staff haven't really acknowledged or said anything, and I think it's going to stay like that until kickoff. I think when we announce our official depth chart, you'll see it. You'll see the big or with Will Mallory or Brevin Jordan, kind of just to get people to think. But me personally, I think everyone's going to play. That's just
Okay.
my personal
Fair.
take. I think everyone's going to play, but that's not official, obviously. I do know that there's a couple guys still banged up, but I don't think they'll play as much. But everyone, from what I'm understanding, everyone's good as far as COVID.
Keys to this game, Brad. For me, it is stopping Virginia Tech's run game. I don't know if Herbert's going to play. If he is, he's one of the best running backs in the ACC. They averaged 270 total rushing yards. That's a lot of rushing yards. If Miami allows that Saturday at noon, it's going to be a very long and interesting game. Hendon Hooker, he's not the best passer, but what he is good at is getting out of the pocket, running and making first downs. And that's something I'm looking at after. Can Miami contain Hendon Hooker? Can we get to the quarterback and create turnovers? Also, I thought we did a decent job running the football with Cam Harris. He ran for 60 rushing yards. I think it was 13 carries or 12. De'Ara King ran for over 100 yards. Can we repeat that performance and get over 150 rushing yards against Virginia Tech? I think we can do it. And if we do hit 150 rushing yards, we do limit Virginia Tech to 100 rushing yards. Miami will win this football game Saturday at noon. Those are my keys to winning against Virginia Tech. What do you got, Brad?
Yeah, excellent point, Paul. I think me personally, I think it's going to be the battle of the quarterbacks, right? I think the two biggest difference makers on the football team in this game is obviously the quarterbacks. I think whoever wins the quarterback battle is going to end up winning the football game. Obviously, I'm going to go with De'Ara King on that. Whether Herbert plays or not, I'm not worried too much about that. Um, I know plenty of people that have hurt their hamstrings, and that's, I mean, especially twice in a year, not a year, but in the season, and
Right.
just hurting it last week. It's a little tough to come back like that. But I think we're gonna have to stack the box. Pretty much the defense we saw late in the fourth quarter against NC State. We need to play that the whole game. We need to come out the gate just like that. Whether that was Blake Baker, like getting something out of his head and like, oh wow, maybe I should change something, or if that was Manny Diaz controlling everything, it needs to start and end like that the whole football game. And yeah, I think the running game for us is going to be a little bit easier. I think now teams are going to have to start game planning even more for De'Ara King on that run. Now that he's starting to get comfortable with those zone reads that we talked about, he wasn't comfortable with prior. He's starting to settle into that. So I think that's just another obstacle defenses are going to have to look at, which is going to just open up bigger holes for the running backs. I think this will be the game for our running backs. I expect big things from at least two running backs, whether it be Don Chaney and Cam Harris or Cam Harris and Knight.
Brad, what's your score prediction? Number 9, Miami goes into Blacksburg, Virginia. What do you got?
42-17.
42-17. Wow. I got 34-31 Miami.
I think this will be the first game we see our A game. I think we've been waiting all year for it. You watch everyone in college football who have worse records than us, and they have at least had an A game one time this year. We have yet to have an A game. Our special teams has always brought it, and only one of the sides have brought it. I think this is the game all three do it. This is a team that we're playing against that has a very bad defense, so I expect our offense to bring it. I think this all relies on the defense this game, and I think Manny knows it. I think the staff knows it, and I think we pretty much do what past has shown when it comes to Blacksburg, and it will be a blowout.
Key stat: NC State averaged 34 points a game they allowed against opponents. Virginia Tech allows 31 points per game. If Miami gets to 40, they will win this football game. Brad, if we blow out Virginia Tech like you're stating, 42-17, this puts Miami in a great position moving forward. The next week, they have a very weak Georgia Tech team, probably one of the worst in the ACC. Then you have a pretty decent offense with Wake Forest, pretty decent quarterback with Sam Hartman. Then you have that shootout against North Carolina. I think that's going to be a very interesting game. To be honest, I think North Carolina has the edge. It's going to be a barn burner to 45. That's a game to look out for. But this could put Miami in a great position. So this is a key game.
It is. And I mean, I don't want to look too ahead because I talked about this earlier on Twitter. And this is a week right now where we are very lucky to be playing football this Saturday. There are so many teams in college football whose games got canceled due to the coronavirus. So the fact that we're even playing football this Saturday, I'm blessed to see our Canes play. But you talk about next week with Georgia Tech, who knows if that game even gets played, Paul? Who knows how many coronavirus tests are still going on then? And who knows just following the rest of the season? I've heard from not just college football, but I mean, the United States might be prepared for another lockdown, it looks like. So who knows what happens with football? I think right now we don't need to worry about rankings. We don't need to worry about the end of the year against North Carolina. I just think we need to go week by week and just win. It's 3 letters, 1 easy word, and I think as long as Miami wins, we're just gonna keep going and keep trending to the top. I'm looking forward to the season, man. I think this is just the beginning because the next class we have coming in, I think is really going to be the difference makers to kind of put this team on the next level.
Gotta love it, man. Guys, show Brad some love. He's doing late night recordings. He hits me up. He's like, Paul, let's do a show, man. He couldn't do it at 2 p.m. earlier. Had family commitments. Gotta respect that. Pulling it all-nighter.
Yes, sir.
Doing it from his car. Man, go show him some love. By the way, go show some love to stickersbyab.com, man. Discount code SCOOP, all caps, 50% off. Brad, have you bought him from Stickers by AB before?
Look, I was actually with him when he brought a package, and dude, the hologram stickers are insane. You got the Sean Taylor hologram. If you're a Miami Heat or a Miami Dolphin fan, they got the Tua stickers, Tua time, and the bucket with Mr. Tyler Hero. I gotta say, man, so I got a brand new 2020 Dodge Charger. So the stickers on a car, I don't want to do it yet, but so I let them know. I was like, hey, man, we got to think of some other ideas because there's got to be some people out there that want to put it on their cars, but putting a sticker on a nice new vehicle is kind of like, oh, I don't want to do it yet. So we're in the process of, I'm hoping to get some magnets, some car magnets, things like that. So I know he's involved in trying to get some maybe other merchandise. Big things are ahead. And who knows, man, maybe we'll get our own logo and sticker, right?
Yeah, that is definitely the plan, man. And that'll be pretty sick. Definitely have some ideas flowing, and we'll get in contact with Stickers by AB to hook it up for us. Brad, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Of course, bro.
Hopefully pull out the win against the Virginia Tech on Blacksburg, and hopefully things will be moving forward. We can go 10-1 and win a nice bowl game against a nice opponent.
Hey, man, I wouldn't mind if it was Florida in the bowl game. I'll tell you that. That
would be great. That would be outstanding, and I think we match up very well against Florida. Great offense. We have a great offense. Bad defense. Our defense, I don't know what it is. It's week by week it changes. That's all I got on it.
Hey, it would.
Anyways,
it would be the showdown. It would be the showdown of tight ends. Kyle Pitts versus Brevin Jordan, Will Mallory.
Yeah, and quarterbacks too. Kyle Trask, Derek King were high school teammates, so that would be a great storyline as well. I'm picturing it right now. All right, guys, it's always all about the youth.